Do you ever look at your stuff and think, wow, that looks like it could be something else if you add some fabric and some dye and some tassels? Well, that's what I did, and this is why we're here. We had a really big pillow lying around my house. In fact, if you're quite eagle-eyed, you might see it back there all done because I'm filming this after the fact. We had this giant pillow laying around, and I was looking at it and I was like, you know what? That looks like one of the most recognizable fixtures of the Harry Potter world fandom group thing. I don't know what it's called. But yeah, it's not the Deathly Hallows. It's not the glasses and lightning bolt thing that everybody has. But no, it is everyone's second favorite knitwear behind like the Weasley sweaters. But yeah, it's the scarves. Everyone really likes the scarves. I don't know, I do too. Can't explain it. But I was looking at it and it looks like a scarf kind of if I put some stripy fabric on it and some tassels. There are 4 different ways that you could go about doing this. Easiest to hardest would be to go buy some striped fabric in the colors of your house. Get some stripy fabric in those colors and some tassels or whatnot for the like stringy bits at the end. That was the first thing I was going to do. But then I couldn't find any, I think that was my issue. Or maybe I just like making things really hard for myself. The second thing would be to get some like regular cotton in the colors that you need it. Cut them up, sew them together, and then boom, you're done. Third option, go buy some dye, go buy some plain fabric ready for dyeing, and do that. Now option 4. Option 4 is what I did, which is get some plain fabric ready for dyeing, and then look online for different ways to make it naturally. Because, I don't know, I felt like it would make me feel like I was at Hogwarts, so I was really down for that option. It was a questionable choice, to be honest, in the end. There's a whole chunk of this that is just me messing around with black beans and carob and turmeric, trying to make the colors and whatnot. So you can probably skip ahead if you're just interested in the sewing part, which I don't even know if you're interested in that.
Expecto, Patronum!
Okay, so the first thing I did was lay the pillow over the giant sheet of fabric and measure out the general like length and width, and I wasn't very exact with this, which kind of comes back to haunt me later, but it's fine. So I knew I wanted 6 sections. It ended up being 7, but that's fine. It looks fine in the end. So I laid it out and figured out the length and then just measured that, divided that by 6, and cut out each strip.
So first thing I found out I need is a crap ton of pots. I'm probably not using that white one in the back since I'm like dyeing things, and I don't think my mom would be very happy about that. But she said I could use the giant stock pot, and then I already have this one, which was from college and is kind of crappy, and it's now my designated dye pot if I ever do this again. Then we got the normal pot that we use for like spaghetti and stuff. And then we also have buckets and giant bowls because I'm going to have to like do all that stuff in those pots and then put the fabric in bowls to soak and set, I think.
The first thing that I saw you could use for black dye was carob pods, which the store didn't have, so I got carob powder, which was just carob pods that had been roasted and ground, so I thought it might work. For the yellow dye, I got turmeric, and also bay leaf gives a yellow dye, as well as some mustard seeds and powders and stuff, but the turmeric is what I ended up doing most of the heavy lifting anyway, so I'm sure that was all I really needed.
It is very, very cold and very windy. But the carob powder did not work at all. It was a dark chocolatey brown. So I went back out and I got black beans, because that apparently works better. So I guess we'll see. Oh my god. Yeah, see you at home.
So So I got the black beans, and it turned into a nice blue-gray dye, and then I tried to use salt and vinegar like it says I can use online to try and help set it, which I don't know if that's actually true, but that's what the internet said, so I tried that. But the vinegar turned it purple. So the vinegar and salt was not worth it. The black beans were not worth it for me. So the turmeric ended up actually working pretty well, but I needed to buy black dye to fix that mistake, and I need more yellow dye, so just in the end, just buy dye. It wasn't worth it. So this is what they looked like in the end, and it all turned out fine, so it's whatever. But on to the sewing. The first thing I did was just reattach all of the dyed strips of fabrics back together, so it turned into my stripy main fabric. For the yarn tassels, I measured out 15 strands of yarn and then knotted them. My pillow was 20 inches the short way, so that ended up being tassels about 2 inches apart all the way down. So you just kind of measure that out. I put it on the wrong side in this clip, but you'll see you sandwich it together so that they're all facing inwards. So then that ended up being so incredibly hard to sew over those knots. Like, I wasn't actually sewing on the knots, but it was impossible to get anywhere near where I needed to because they were so thick. So instead, I measured out the equivalent of 2 inches of yarn that way and then just taped them together like little wefts. Wefts. I don't know how to say that. And then lined them up just along there and sewed it along that way, and it was a whole lot easier to make a consistent line down the side. I then later cut off the tape because it was really crunchy. Then I needed to hot glue it because even though I'd sewed them down, after I took the tape off, it was easy for those to slide through the stitches. Thankfully that didn't actually happen, but I noticed it was getting close to happening. So yeah, I used hot glue and that kept it in place, and yeah. To finish those off, I took I guess that was before I cut it, but I knotted them after I sewed it. But after this is when I started to cut off the tape and realized I needed hot glue. Oh, so this part is the lengthwise stitch. I left the side open so I'd be able to take the pillow in and out for washing. But yeah, this is just the final length stitch. This is essentially the last part. I ended up doing this part like 4 times because I kept getting the measurements wrong, which is always my Achilles heel with sewing, is the measurements. For the other side that I'm leaving open for the yarn, I just...
So that instead of facing in, like you would need for the other one, I just faced them out. Since it wouldn't be turned inside out, I sewed it to the inside of the flap on one side, knotted it, hot glued it. So yeah, you just kind of need to have them facing the other way.
God, I don't know if that made any sense, but when you see it, you might be able to understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, that was the last part. Yeah, you just sew it lengthwise and cut the seam allowance so it's not like a crap ton of fabric that you're not even using or needing. But I would put the pillow in first to make sure that it's tight enough or loose enough on the pillow, because I had to redo this part like 3 times to get the size right. And time for the glamour shots. Ooh, featuring my Chamber of Secrets Illustrated edition because it just felt right. I don't know.
So that's how I made this thing that I'm now laying on. My favorite part would have to be the tassel-y ends. Also, I left this end open so that I would be able to take the pillow out to wash it so it doesn't get gross over time. But I'm planning to get like some Velcro or something so that it's not this ugly hole. But oh yeah, you can see like how I hot glued it a little bit. The dyeing didn't come out like that evenly on it, but since I did it by hand, like I kind of like that. Cause like what's the point in it looking perfect? Cause if I wanted it to be perfect, I could have just bought some random correctly colored fabrics from Joann's and sewn it together and called it a day. But this shows the character of me desperately trying to find the correct things to dye this with. I think it turned out pretty great. It's like probably the closest thing to a project turning out exactly how I wanted to. Like, the closest it's been in a really long time. Like, I've got 3 or 4 projects in the other room that are just sitting in trash bags, like the trash that they are right now. And I'll eventually fix them, I hope. So this one actually turned out pretty good. I only had to redo each step like 6 times, which is a personal best for me. Usually I have to redo everything 1,000 times, even though this was literally like 3 seams when you come down to it, because like this part, the striping part, was the easiest part, but like I don't know what I'm saying anymore.